Yeah.
What part of India? We want town and okay, there we go. Town and country.
Okay. Well, just in the interest of everybody's time, I think we'll get started, Allison and
hmm
Anukriti and everybody else, just to respect everybody's schedule. So we are gathered here, and I'd like to say that my name is Meg Beckel, and welcome everybody. I'm here in Ottawa, Canada, and I'm welcoming you all from the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Uh, so this morning, afternoon, evening webinar is really our opportunity to talk about Motion 126, which is a motion championing the embracing and use of data from citizen science for all of IUCN. Uh, we have a bit of information that we hope will inform and inspire all of you. And for those of you who are already totally committed to citizen science, we hope you give you a bit of understanding about what we're suggesting in the motion so that you and those in your network will vote in support of motion 126, which will then make it a resolution and will then guide policy and action from all of IUCN. So, Alison Ormsby is joining us from Adventure Scientists, and they are the lead for Motion 126. So, thank you, Alison, for putting this forward, for inspiring sponsors, and then for um, allowing the Citizen Science Task Force to join you in this effort. And Anukriti Sharma, who is representing Citizen Science Asia. And then I am here on behalf of the IUCN Commission for Education and Communications. So let's go to the next slide. Oh, and just to remind folks, we will do Q&A at the end of the presentation. So do put your questions in the chat. I will be monitoring that because after I do the welcome and the opening, I'll be monitoring the questions. Why motion 126? Well, I like to think through the lens of issue, recommendation, and rationale. So the issue, as we all know, is we've got huge conservation challenges due to climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, and I would suggest, low scientific literacy. And there is an urgent need for large-scale data to guide action, but also to guide public policy and decision making. So our recommendation is the adoption by the IUCN network of Motion 126, because we believe this will be one step toward addressing some of the major data gaps we have around the world. And of course, support scalable solutions because of the process of engaging so many people in the process of citizen science. Now, our rationale is that, citizen community science is an incredibly powerful and inclusive tool that can generate um, high impact data. So let's go to the next slide. So, why IUCN? Why now? Where does citizen science fit in IUCN? Well, just to put it in the context of where emotion fits, because emotion guides policy for all of IUCN. So this means IUCN government and NGO members, national and regional committees, all of the IUCN commissions, and the Secretariat. That's that's directly guiding 17,000 individuals, plus all of the networks that they touch. Citizen science either does or could involve all seven of IUCN commissions because the data isn't just specimen data. There's all kinds of data that can be collected through citizen science efforts. And given it can reach such a huge network, we believe that citizen science is something that IUCN as an environmental network could and should embrace. Now, I mean, a motion, which is part of Congress, is just one of the four pathways to engaging with IUCN, engaging with the Congress. So one of those pathways is through the program of work. Now, that discussion and debate has already happened, and the program of work is now going to Congress. Another pathway to Congress is through the election process. And so this is election of council members, but also of the leaders of the commissions. The third pathway to Congress is through submitting proposals for the open forum and for pavilions, including panels and workshops and e-posters throughout the open forum and pavilion process and the exhibit hall. The fourth pathway to Congress is the motion process, and that's the process that we're in the middle of. And motions are either voted on in advance through e-vote, and motion 126 is going to be voted on in the coming weeks through e-vote. Or there are motions that are going to Congress because they need to be voted on at assembly, and that will involve contact groups and discussions and debates throughout the forum leading up to assembly. So we're fitting in to that pathway of motions. And why a motion? Well, a motion, because it guides policy and action for the Secretariat, for the members, national and regional committees, and commissions. We believe that this is a really impactful way to advance this really important approach to engaging citizens, gathering data, and sharing data. So that's the context. So I'm going to turn things over to Alison, who's going to get right into the subject here. So Alison, over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Meg. And thanks for explaining the sometimes confusing process. So this is all leading up to the World Conservation Congress in Abu Dhabi in October. We hope to see some of you there. So what is citizen science? We're using the term citizen science, but we could also use the term community science or participatory science. We're using those as synonyms. So that's scientific research conducted by volunteers or non-professional scientists, and ideally by trained volunteers through some kind of either online or in-person training or combination. So there's other words: crowd science, crowdsourced science, volunteer monitoring, like I said, participatory science. So lots of different terms for involving volunteers in collecting data. It's interesting that citizen science has been around for a long time, over 100 years, but it only really kind of congealed into a known name fairly recently. There was a big increase in the 1990s. The term first entered the Oxford English Dictionary in 2014, so fairly recently. And then there is an article about the definitions and dates, and we made this table out of the article, but basically it's in the 2000s that the term citizen or community science started being used by government agencies and in general common conversation. This is the same as in the literature. So in terms of scientific publications, the growth in publications that cite citizen science really started spiking around 2010 and just has continued to grow. So why is citizen science so important and valuable? Well, actually, the importance of citizen science to research is greater than perceived by the general public. It's crucial because we really can't get this scale of data with official scientists or government employees who are getting paid to research. They're one person generally or a small department. So volunteers are estimated to contribute over 2.5 billion US dollars annually to biodiversity research. And as this author said, the quality of the data collected by volunteers on a project by project basis has been found to be as reliable as the data collected by professionals. So sometimes we hear, oh, is the data valid? Or can we use the data? And as long as they're trained volunteers using the same methods or protocols, the data is indeed valuable. So if you're wanting to learn more, there's been a lot of books written recently, so in the past 10 years or so, about citizen or community science. I'm going to shout out this First Steps book, Citizen Science and Ecology in India. But there's lots more reading to be done, more scientific reading or more sort of narrative book format, and some children's books as well. So, quick poll for our group online. Have you ever participated in a citizen or community science project? And if you have, could you please put it in the chat? Put the name of the project and maybe where it was. We'll give you a moment to go ahead and share that. And if you're not sure, uh, just go ahead and write it in. Don't be shy. Okay, good. We got some interesting ones. Thanks. Pika Patrol, love it. Globe Observer, great. Okay, I'm going to reveal so maybe you did do citizen science and you just didn't realize it. Oh, great. All right, so here we go. Here are some of the examples. A lot of people know eBird or iNaturalist, but the Audubon Christmas bird count is one of the earliest citizen science programs. And it's been going for over 100 years. So I'm going to hand off the microphone to Anukriti, who's going to talk about some global examples.
Right. Thank you so much, Alison. I hope I'm audible.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So far we've looked at what citizen science is in theory, and we've also looked at a few of the initiatives. But I think what's more powerful is also to discuss how the world is actually doing citizen science. As all of you already told us in the chat box, there are more snippets of how citizen science happens globally. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the community aspect here as well. So on this slide, you can see a few glances of citizen science activities from around the world. And what I love about these little pictures is that it just shows the range of what citizen science can mean. It's not just about people with binoculars or notebooks. It's also local communities. It's online participants. As you can see, one of the images is about literally doing citizen science for penguins in Antarctica from the comfort of your home. And it's also about school groups and families on holiday. Everyone just comes together to contribute. And notice the diversity here as well, from zebras in Kenya to water monitoring in the US, even to, various different initiatives. So I think what's powerful is that citizen science lowers the barrier of entry. You don't have to be a professional biologist. You don't have to be a scientist to make a contribution that matters. And of course, beyond the data itself, there's something else that's also happening, right? These projects build a culture of stewardship. So let's say there's a farmer in India who documents birds in his field, or there's a student in the UK who counts pollinators. This is not just about collecting information. This is also about how all of these people and these communities are coming together to shift their own relationship with nature. That cultural shift is often just as valuable as the data, because conservation ultimately depends on public support and awareness as well. So the insight here is that citizen science doesn't just generate numbers, it also generates allies. And the world of conservation really needs allies. And of course, in today's conservation challenges, allies are as critical as evidence. So let's also take a look at some of the results from such citizen science projects on the next slide. So it's actually tempting to think about citizen science as a nice to have supplement to research, but honestly, the truth is that it's often also driving real policy change. So we've put down a few examples over here, even though there are maybe tens and hundreds of such examples around the world. So the big butterfly count in the UK. So almost 85,000 volunteers recorded butterfly sightings in 2024, and they contributed data that influenced a major government decision on pesticide use. And there's also the State of India's Bird Report. Over 30 million observations from 30,000 individual bird watchers on eBird helped assess the distribution and the abundance and the conservation outcomes of more than 900 bird species in India. And then there's also the Great Koala Count in Australia, and globally, now I'll come to my favorite example. There is the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, and more than 60% of data on GBIF comes from citizen science platforms like eBird and iNaturalist. So that's actually really fantastic to think about, you know. And this also really just means that without citizen science, our understanding of global biodiversity could have been far more limited as well. So I think from my side, the deeper insight here would be that citizen science is no longer on the margins. It's not a side project or a feel good exercise. It's infrastructure. It's infrastructure that's in our hands. It's right here. And we have the power to actually use it to complement conservation initiatives and to complement policies. And it's also part of the backbone of how we now monitor, manage, and also conserve our biodiversity. So with that, I would also just like to say that uh, everything that I spoke about and everything that Meg and Alison have spoken about till now is exactly why Motion 126 came into being, and to ensure that citizen science is recognized not just as an add-on, but as a foundational tool for conservation. So now I invite Alison back to the spotlight to talk about the motion in a bit more detail.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. Exactly. So citizen science has never been mentioned in an IUCN motion up to now. So it's very exciting that this is the first motion specifically about citizen or community science. And it's a long process to develop a motion, multiple steps. So we at Adventure Scientists worked with other organizations around the world because you have to have folks who support your motion in order to propose it. So I want to give a shout out to these organizations shown on the slide and others, many others actually, around the world who were supporters of the motion. And it passed originally, well, it actually did not pass originally. Originally, we were told that it was an educational issue, so it should just be an education commission, which, as Meg already said, the idea of this motion is that community or citizen science could be part of IUCN's strategy going forward, the next four-year strategy, and implemented in all of the different commissions, right? Like, especially if you think about the Species Survival Commission, citizen science could be used for helping with red list assessments and green list monitoring. So we did go through an appeal and content drafting and editing. Our appeal asking for the motion to actually go forward and be voted on was successful. So now, as Meg mentioned, it's part of the electronic vote period that is starting very soon. And also, as Anukriti said, the community science is important for data collection, but it's also community building and coalition building. So through this collaborative work, we've gotten to know which other organizations really care about citizen science, and we're trying to educate the IUCN about the importance. So this slide shows some of the language. I did not put the whole motion on the slides because it's very long. But as I mentioned, citizen science must be incorporated in all possible activities of the IUCN, should be adopted as standard practice, that it democratizes science, promotes equitable data access, fosters environmental stewardship. There is a citizen science task force, and Meg, Anukriti, and I are on it, but it's only a short-term one within the CEC. So we're trying to make sure that that's a long-term task force with goals and targets over the coming years. And the final thing is we're urging stakeholders to prioritize community-based monitoring, recognizing traditional knowledge, and promoting open source tools. So the voting period starts Wednesday, and goes through September 10th. So you have time to read through all the other motions as well. And we really strongly encourage you to please take the time. If you're an IUCN official member organization, unfortunately, only official IUCN members can vote. So if your organization is a member, we really encourage you to take the time to vote yes on motion 126. So that concludes the remarks that we had. We hope to see you in Abu Dhabi, and we will open up the floor for questions and conversation. You can put it in the chat, or you could raise your hand and we can call on you if you have questions.
Thanks. Thanks, Allison. And so far, I'm not seeing questions in the chat, but one other thing I wanted to just elaborate on is the citizen science task force and some of the areas of focus so far, and how this motion could really, augment our work and help us, spread the word and demonstrate just how impactful citizen science can be. The task force, which was established and approved by council as an official task force within this quadrennial. And so, as Allison said, we want it renewed into the next quadrennial program. And we have 4 working groups within the task force. One of them that Allison and I and Anukriti are very involved with the support of the task force chair, Alex, who I know is watching us but has dodgy connectivity, is on motions and resolutions. And so our task is to really look, be the champion for the motion, track the comments during the first commenting period of time. And then I guess we're going to have to now like wait and see, but do what we can to encourage voting in support of the motion. Then there's also a definitions and resources working group, really looking at, as Allison mentioned, there are different ways of describing citizen science, community science. And there are many resources that are available. And so we're trying to build an inventory of resources that could be shared and eventually, distributed, made available at least through the IUCN website. And then there's a whole team that's looking at surveys and case studies. So surveying IUCN members and beyond on their uses of citizen science, and through that process, collecting case studies of both successful and maybe not so successful projects involving citizen science, because it's all about learning different ways to apply citizen science and to collect different kinds of data. And then finally, we have a working group just dedicated to knowledge products and creating everything from an issue brief, explainer briefs, other knowledge products that can basically share how-tos. There can be 10-step guides, there can be toolkits, but the kind of products that we can share for those who want to learn more about citizen science, what it is, how to use it. So just to give you a snapshot of some of the work that we've been doing so far, recognizing there's lots more ahead.
And I will also mention that we did submit a proposal to have a citizen science themed panel or discussion at the World Conservation Congress, probably in the Americas Pavilion, but we have not yet heard if that's accepted. But if you're going to be at the WCC, find us, and we're hoping to have lunchtime meetings, just informal, at the Congress. So stay tuned for that. There's a question in the chat about if you're not a member, how else could you help? And I think just spreading the word, and also just in your conversations with colleagues, just counteracting that belief that citizen science isn't scientific. But you may have colleagues who are IUCN members, so kind of asking them to support would be great.
And then I see our fearless co-chair for our Citizen Science Task Force, Alex Zavarazan, is encouraging us all to spread the word. So he has a moment of connectivity. This is great. Alex has been in and out of connectivity during his various professional travels. I think the other thing, as non-members, because many commission members, don't have a direct vote, but you can influence those who are members, whether they're a government member, government agency member, subnational member, indigenous member, international NGO, national NGO. We want to encourage people to vote in favor of motion 126. So part of it is just spreading the word that how important citizen science is, that you're aware that motion 126 exists. Please vote. And so we have this window of opportunity between August 27th and September 10th. So make noise about the value and impact of citizen science.
Ben has a question in the chat. Could you share how you envision this motion opening up new opportunities to collaborate and support citizen science across organizations, regions, or globally? Excellent question. I can give two examples. So there's a Species Survival Commission, which you all may be familiar with, but they do red list assessments for species. So like Anukriti shared, there are a lot of data deficient species. So things like a butterfly census or a bird census helps get data about the numbers of those species. And it could help with red list assessments and help get more species studied that have been understudied so far. Another commission is the WCPA, the World Commission on Protected Areas. So citizen science could help with monitoring and evaluation in protected areas. And IUCN has a green list of protected areas and other conservation sites that are successful, but the citizen science efforts could also help with monitoring those green list sites. I'm sure there's other ideas. Meg or Anukriti, do you have any other ideas?
And just to build on that, we're also hoping that by getting the IUCN network to embrace citizen science, this could help, I guess, inspire government agencies to embrace citizen science and then to call out to the NGOs that they work with to help them use citizen science as a way to not only engage citizens, because citizens make governments work, but also to engage the NGOs in the various regions of IUCN country members. So it's governments that we're also encouraging to use citizen science, but also to invest in citizen science efforts by the NGO community. And I mean, the NGO members are probably already embracing citizen science. It's getting government, which would be city, provincial, I guess it'd be federal, state, subnational members, to embrace citizen science. And I see Alex's note promoting citizen science. It's not only promoting participation in data collection, but also in development of tools like iNaturalist and similar tools, but also encouraging people to use the tools that exist. Because it's amazing how many people don't know of iNaturalist and eBird, and that these tools exist, and that using those tools is helping citizen science.
Yeah, I have a
And
question.
go ahead.
Um, one thing with like iNaturalist for data collection, it's great, and I love that it then goes to GBIF. But currently, as far as I understand, there's not really a good way for us to show if the data are then being used in a research project or to support some kind of conservation decision. And so I'm wondering if that is a potential facet of your work you all might think of like how it would be very helpful in then defending our work and like the value of our work to show that like it went to this decision, it was used in this research project. But right now it's all sort of, we hope someone's using it. So I'm not sure if that's an angle you all are considering.
It's a great point, Brianna. And I think I know that with GBEF, I mean, the last time I looked, there's a section of their website that basically talks about how the data from GBEF has been used in different research projects and guiding different decisions that have been made. What I don't know is whether that is being done with iNaturalist and eBird in terms of actually promoting the kinds of sort of outcomes, outputs, decisions, public policy that have been guided by it. But you're raising a really important point because we do need to demonstrate that the data is being used, it is informing decision making, it is informing public policy, it is making a difference. So I think it's a note for us on the task force, and we have those organizations all represented on the task force. just to find out, how is the use of the data being promoted, because it certainly is important to demonstrate that all this effort actually is making a difference. So thanks for that.
Right. And I guess I'm
Uh,
saying
yeah.
individualized data set, right? Because someone made a note that like it summarizes the data from INAT, and so then you can't say that my particular study helped with conservation. It's like it sort of went into a pool, and we hope our data was maybe used. So like trying to find a way to track when your actual data is utilized would be a really cool feature and help for legitimizing the work you're doing through things like INAT.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and I see it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say for adventure scientists who I'm representing, we have a tree tracking annual project, and every volunteer who's involved gets our final report of that. And then our data has led to court cases. It's been used as court evidence. And so we follow up with the volunteers that collected that data. But we're on a smaller scale than, say, iNaturalist. And a related thing, I see your hand up, Ron, but Amy asked, do we have a list of IUCN organizations that are already conducting citizen science programs? I don't think we do. And I think that is a fantastic idea and could be another thing that the task force works on.
Yeah, and just building on that, Alison, the survey did go out to all of the IUCN members, and so we have anecdotal based on the responses to the survey, but we don't have a complete inventory because we're really at the mercy of who responds to the survey. So we do have a sense of, percentages and from what countries. So we have pretty high level information. So we do have that, but the survey data is still being collated. So the task force will be sharing that information that gives a sense of, because we have to, we have a lot of data to collate, but we will be able to give a sense of what percentage of IUCN, based on the survey respondents, are actually using citizen science from what countries. And we do have some early preliminary data on that. And I encourage people to check the chat because different colleagues are answering different questions right in the chat. And I think Ram, you had your hand up. Is it
Yeah.
still? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I just wanted to add on, and I think what Austin already mentioned in the chat section, that GBIF already does a great work of tracking this through the citations, and I'm sure that iNaturalist team would also be doing something similar. So we do see in bits and pieces where the data from citizen science is being used, but usually for the policy work and things like this, it is slightly complicated. But for the research work, this is very comparatively easy to track the citations. What we have seen in India specifically is that we use citizen science data a lot, and where the percentage of citizen science data coming to GBIF is around 60% globally. I think in India, this percentage is like much, much higher. This is definitely more than 95% as of today. So we have seen the use of citizen science data for the tiger beetle observations on iNaturalist to be used during the IUCN Red List assessment of like literally dozens of species of tiger beetles there. So I'm sure if we have the motion passed and more people are aware or are conscious about the citizen science data, then we will be able to produce these numbers even better and show how much useful is this.
Thanks, Ram. And I see some useful links have been inserted from both Anukriti and from Austin, GBIF summarizing the studies that use the INET data. But to Brianna's point, the ability to say that your data was used is a lot more difficult because I don't think the GBIF data is that granular. I remember working at the Museum of Nature, we were able to say that our data was retrieved or downloaded, like there were like a billion downloads or retrievables, but how that data was specifically used, we were not able to say unless it was cited. And so tracking citations of your data through GBIF is something organizations can do, but it's a layer of effort, but it's possible. And what I can't answer is the degree to which GBIF is supporting organizations' efforts to pull citations of their data.
Any other questions? or comments?
And I'm trying to think of, so Amy's question is probably the question about receiving the survey. Double check the survey. Yeah, because the survey was promoted through IUCN Engage as one of our mediums. So if people are not on IUCN Engage, they may not have received the survey, but it was also spread through all the members of the CEC Steering Committee and through the task force. So who we managed to get the survey to is limited by our own ability to spread the word through our networks. So it wasn't a full process, but we did send it through the IUCN system. Now that's 17,000 individual contacts, but we recognize that it would have gone into a lot of junk folders, which is too bad. But we did get over 500 responses, so it was really useful and helpful data. Okay, so I think Alison and Anukriti, I think we are done. So voting, for those of you who have a vote, those of you who think you know somebody who has a vote, be our champion for motion 126, citizen science. We need it. Threshold for motion, sure, e-voting. That's a good question. I think it's simply majority. I think governance motions require 66%. I think otherwise it's majority. But we want people to vote yes rather than abstain, or clearly we don't want to know. But we want those yes votes because we want the vote to be really, really strong because that sends a powerful message to the IUCN community that this is really something that people believe is important for IUCN. Oh, and yes, Austin, wouldn't it be
Yeah.
great for IUCN to join the global partnership, the Citizen Science Global Partnership? I think that would be a wonderful next step. That would be a wonderful outcome.
And Basha's asking, how can citizen science platforms in India be better integrated with policy and conservation action? Ram, do you want to take that?
I'm not able to find the questions. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. How can citizen science platforms in India, like India Biodiversity Portal or eBird India, be better integrated with policy and conservation action?
Yes. So basically, the thing is that wherever we have been able to come up with a knowledge product, we have been able to successfully use these platforms in the policy or conservation action. So, for example, what Anukriti showed in her presentation, we have come up with State of India's Bird report. So, this report has been a very substantial step in finding very easily about the bird numbers, their trends, and all of these things. And one of the uh, sub-product of the State of India's bird report was a tool called MYNA, MYNA, Map Your Neighborhood Avifauna. So with that, we can select any small area or any polygon basically, and we can see what is the number of, let's say, bird species which was seen there or reported by the citizen scientists. And this data is backed by more than 20 years of data which has come on eBird platform. So this data from the MINA portal, which was part of State of India's birds report, was used in a lot of legal cases, in a lot of policy related cases where, let's say, an organization did the environment impact assessment and they falsely reported that only 10 species of birds are seen in this area and we are going to do this work here and this the thing. But then we were able to instantly show them through the MINA portal and through State of India's bird report that no, there are more than 120 species which have been reported here in the last 20 years. So if we are able to come up with things like this, then it is becoming really useful. So what happened in the case of birds, we are trying to do it in other cases as well. So the short answer is, if we have the knowledge products which are very handy and which can give a substantial and credible data to show, then they have been proved to be very useful in legal cases or in the policy and the conservation action so far.
Thank you, Ram. I want to shout out Cornell, eBird, and Project Feeder Watch and Pigeon Watch. Same thing. You know, if you're involved with local or state or national policy, and the policymakers are claiming like, oh, that bird is common or there's not that many species, you can actually then show them the data and help inform that local or state policy by countering some narratives that may be incorrect. Okay, Scott's put in, there is a webinar coming up about how the motions work. I know if you're an IUCN member, you're getting a lot of email right now, but you know, there's something about the motions process coming up. Yeah, Ben's right. It is a little overwhelming, but I think part of this motion is also building the coalition so we can share lessons learned and kind of work more in tandem, and again, share data so that we can be more powerful together. All right, I think we're going to wrap up. We can stay on longer if people want more one-on-one questions, but I think officially we will adjourn unless Meg, Anukriti, any final comments?
Yeah, no, I think this is great. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for being champions. And thanks, Scott, for the reminder that there are some information sessions coming up for those who are facing voting, especially if you're voting for the first time and e-voting. It's a process. Just click, click, click. Just say 126, yes. So thank you all. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Alison and Anukriti and Ram and
Mhm.
fearless leader Alex. And thanks all of you for your questions and your engagement.
Thank you.